So I'm finally getting around to a review of the Chiappa Rhino. I've always been fascinated by them, but from a distance. I guess I never picked one up before because I figured it was really just a boutique gun and it was a lot of budget to tie up. But my favorite training facility and gun shop had this one for sale, gently used. In fact, it belonged to one of the employees there, who I know and trust. The asking price was good, so I brought it home like that cute puppy that one might see at the shelter. This revolver is the model 60DS with the gold PVD finish. PVD is the same finish that Sig Sauer used on their original Legion line. I think they have since switched over to a Cerakote, but that initial gray was a PVD finish. This is the same type of finish, only in a gold. I found it to be overall good, but I always worried a little bit that you can clean a dull spot into it. Now, those of you who have something with a PVD finish may understand what I'm saying. It just feels thin. So I'm hoping that over a little bit of time and cleaning, will find that that's not the case, especially with a revolver, because as you revolver shooters know, the cylinder and generals, the chambers and things like that just get really fouled. And so sometimes you have to do a lot of heavy cleaning on the finish of a revolver. So I'm hoping to be able to report at a later time that it holds up really well. Stay tuned for that. There is a slightly different tone to the finish over different materials. And so you can see that in this gun as you transition from frame to barrel. You can see that different coloration or hue to the gold texture. That's not unusual, especially when you have light alloys versus steel components. The cylinder and barrel are steel on this revolver, and the rest of the gun is a light alloy construction. It's specifically 7075 T6. And you really notice the lightness of it, the lack of weight. Really feels good in the hand that way. On my scale, the revolver weighs 2 pounds and 1.5 ounces. It has a 6-inch barrel and it holds 6 rounds in the cylinder. And it's a .357 Magnum, which means it can also fire .38 Special, which I did a lot of. Okay, I've been looking forward to this. My very first shots with the Chiappa Rhino .357 Magnum, 6-shot revolver in this beautiful gold tone finish. I really like that. Yeah, it's a little blingy, but it's also kind of subdued in a way as well. This is, of course, a double action revolver. It can also be fired single action. There's a little bit of a trick to doing that because this hammer that's up on the top of the gun is actually a false hammer, or what they call a false hammer, but it is the one you use to put it into single action. So, I don't know. When they say false hammer, what they really mean is this is not the hammer that falls onto the firing pin. That's really what that means. But false does not mean decorative. You do use it, that's the hammer that you would cock back to put it into single action. I'll demonstrate that in a bit. But first, I'm kind of itching to go ahead and shoot this thing. So that's what I'm going to do. Already I love the sights. That felt interesting. Now I'm shooting .38 Special right now, but I'm shooting Federal hollow point .38 Special loads. Of course, the big deal with the Chiappa Rhino is that the barrel is at the bottom of the cylinder rather than at the top of the cylinder like revolvers typically are. So typically the barrel would be in line right here up at the top of the cylinder, right? That would be the chamber that's firing.
Well, with the Chiappa Rhino, it's down here with the lower cylinder, or the lower chamber in the cylinder, and the barrel is right here under my finger. So you can see, and it kind of looks like a rhino, doesn't it? So that's where it gets its name. Leave it to the Italians to come up with something weird like this. And also leave it to the Italians to make it look damn good. So I will shoot some 357 here in a bit, but I will tell you with the 38 Special, there's no recoil at all. I mean, it just comes like straight back in your hand. There's no muzzle flip. There's a little bit of jump of the entire gun. I mean, you know, there's a little bit of a recoil impulse, but it's really kind of straight back. You know, the gun lifts a little bit, but it doesn't lift like this. You know, it kind of lifts like this. Also, a little demonstration too on the cylinder release. So, you know, with a Colt, you pull back, straight back on the cylinder release. With the Smith & Wesson, you push straight forward on the cylinder release. And those are always kind of the two main types of cylinder release that all other manufacturers will emulate, either one way or the other. While the Chiappa, of course, is different. So this is the cylinder release lever right here under my thumb. And to release the cylinder, you simply push down on it, like that. And then you just pop the cylinder out like you would any other revolver. Kind of like that. That's very, very handy and probably very speedy. All right, I'm going to try out some 357. So I've got some got a brand new box of Fiocchi 158 grain, solid copper jacketed, sort of a flat point, not a hollow point. Got that ammo loaded up, 6 rounds of it. Let's see how that feels. Well, you can feel the difference, but it's still very flat. I'm really not even counting to 6 because I'd have to use both hands. 6 more Fiocchi 357 Magnums. So far, I really like this gun. Really like it. Nice acquisition on my part, I must say. Oh, it's pretty easy to stage this trigger too. Look at that.
The grips are a medium walnut, uniquely shaped and extremely well fitted. They're quite comfortable for shooting, even though initially, by the look of them, I wondered how comfortable it might be. The sights are good quality fiber optics. The rear sight is a fully adjustable serrated black sight containing 2 green filaments. The front sight is a narrow blade with a red filament. Overall length of the Rhino 60DS is 10.5 inches, and I measured the trigger with my Lyman digital gauge. I got a consistent 9.5 to 10 pounds with the double action and 3 pounds 12 ounces for the single action. The trigger pull is buttery smooth, and the face and shape of the trigger are very comfortable.
Okay, ergonomics analysis. I'm back to the 38 Special. Not so much because it's lighter, just because it's cheaper, to be honest. When you look at the grip on this thing, it seems like it might be too short. And maybe for somebody with, you know, big ham hands, it would be. So that could be a downside. But for me, you know, it really fits my hand nicely, really nicely. And the shape and angle of it are very, very nice, very ergonomic. Gives me a great hand position, gives me a nice wrist position, puts those sights out just flat. I mean, that sight picture just falls together perfectly when I push the gun out forward. So whoever designed this put a little thought into that, and they did a good job. The sight picture is, as I said, really nice. You got those 2 green filaments in the back and the red out front. The rest of the rear sight is serrated, blacked out. It's a nice sight picture. Looks like the sights need maybe a little bit of adjustment. We'll see. It's too early. I haven't shot enough rounds to be able to tell if maybe that's just me, if I'm flinching a little bit and pulling them to the right, or if maybe I just need to make a tweak. And once again, I love that cylinder release. That's pretty nice.
Chiappa is a family-owned company founded over 60 years ago in Italy. It is an Italian company. While most of their handgun line consists of copies of models like the 1911 Beretta and even old single-action wheel guns, the Rhino is a unique design that is way outside the box. Firing from the bottom of the cylinder literally puts the revolver world on its head. It aligns the recoil of the shot with the strong bones of your forearm, and this removes the pivoting action in the wrist joint and sends the recoil impulse straight back to solid resistance. This dramatically reduces muzzle rise, even with 357 loads. Even with 357 Magnum loads, the perception when shooting the gun of the recoil is that of a small, gentle rise. The sight picture almost doesn't change. It just basically lifts. It's sort of like the instantaneous rising and lowering of a tide.
All right, I'm loaded back up. Now, I'm going to go single action for all 6 of these rounds, because I have yet to fire it single action. I want to feel that. I have dry fired it single action. The way it works, the way you put it in single action, is using this hammer. They call it the false hammer, but again, it's not really false. It does do something. It just doesn't strike the firing pin. So that's why they call it false. But to put the gun in single action, you just simply pull that hammer all the way back. I'm going to demonstrate that here. All right, you can see that it rotated the cylinder and put the trigger all the way back into single action mode. Now the hammer just falls forward, sort of dead, right? Because it's false. That hammer is not going to drop onto the firing pin. The hammer of this gun is internal. So I've got an internal hammer that actually is doing the heavy lifting. So I'm going to do single action for all 6 of these. Let's give it a try. Should be 6. One more to make sure. Well, good thing I did. Well, that single action trigger feels about as good as any I've felt. Very nice. Very, very nice. I'm starting to wonder, how come everybody doesn't have a Chiappa Rhino? All the revolver guys. I mean, this thing is sweet. It is a sweet shooter. You know, there's a good chance that by the end of this video, I may have learned how to count to 6. I did really like that single action. I'm going to do that some more. 6 more single actions. Also a nice way to check out the accuracy as well. Let me do it properly and use my left thumb. All right, that's 6. Wow, so I learned a couple things here. Number 1, the hammer, is especially doing it with my left thumb like that, which allows me to not have to break my grip, but it's a little more difficult because I'm pulling the hammer back this way instead of pulling it back this way. And it's harder, it takes a lot more force. So pulling it back this way, relatively easy, although in neither case is it as easy as a Smith & Wesson or a Colt or a Taurus or, you know, on and on. So cocking the hammer back to get to single action takes a little bit more effort than it does with most other revolvers. Now the other thing I learned shooting those last 6, I shot them at my most challenging dueling tree downrange. You've seen it before, I may show it to you later. It's the one with all the square flapping steel targets. I was 6 for 6 on that. And that's unusual for me with any gun, to be honest, especially those bottom couple that they have that weird angle. I was 6 for 6, and I'm looking at where the impacts were on the ones that didn't flip, and they're just about dead center. So what I'm learning is that where I thought it might need a little bit of a sight adjustment, probably not. That was me shooting double action offhand and me being the culprit. It looks like with single action, it is dead on it. So I think I could safely say, without even having to do a rested test, this thing is very accurate. And that is about, what's that, 17 yards? 16, 17 yards is those small plates. And I was just nailing them, drilling them right in the middle.
Thumb cocking the false hammer for single action was stiffer than I'd like. I've talked about that a bit in my range activity. Perhaps more surface area or a slight raise in the length of it for more leverage would help. But it might sacrifice some of the design, so maybe that's why they didn't do that. But still, that is a minor complaint and certainly not one worth harping on. I mention it so that people with weaker strength can consider it and maybe even test that before you buy to see if that's something you're going to have a problem with.
Okay, I am going to try some accuracy shots here. I'm going to do them single action to give the gun a fighting chance against my feeble skills. And 13 yards is the distance. Got 2 orange dots. I'm going to do one group of 6 shots with 38 Special and one group of 6 shots with 357 Magnum. Starting with the 38 Special. This is Federal, same stuff I've been shooting, Federal hollow point, 357 Magnum. Going to the target on the right. All right, there's those 6. Not too bad, I guess. Now Fiocchi 357 Magnum. Okay, yeah, I definitely like cocking the hammer better with my shooting hand, with my right hand. All right, there's 2 groups just to look at what the accuracy looks like offhand, 357 and 38. The sight picture is, as I said, very good. I like it, but there is some airspace. You got a nice narrow front sight blade. So there is some walking around room in there. And sometimes I struggle with that, personally. I know some people prefer it. Usually people who are better accuracy shooters prefer that sight picture, but I kind of like it all nice and tight.
There's Picatinny rail of equal size on both the top and the bottom of the Rhino. You can mount a scope and a laser, or whatever you want. Chiappa Rhino models range in size from like 3-inch snub barrel models to the 6-inch like you see here. And they vary in price from around $1,200 to $2,000 or more, with this 60DS being near the top of that at over $1,700 MSRP. Those size-tapered slots in the rib of the barrel might provide some cooling, but I'm sure they're there for aesthetics, weight, and material cost purposes, really. Keep in mind, in order to get the sights where you need them, a lot of space has to be covered from the muzzle to the top strap. So I like the way they did it. The cosmetics do count, and after all, it is an Italian design. I thought it appropriate to use Fiocchi 357 Magnum loads, Italian ammo for an Italian gun. After just one range outing with the Rhino, I have to say I'm very impressed. I love a good non-cookie cutter design, especially when it makes great logical sense. The Rhino is tons of fun to shoot, and it feels solid, with silky smooth action, and it's accurate. Every part of this gun is top quality in materials and workmanship. It's an expensive revolver, but I think it's a great value. You'll be seeing this one again on the channel, I can promise that. Let me know what you think in the comments below. You can really support the channel and help me keep content flowing by hitting like and being a subscriber. I'm on Patreon if you want to support me that way. Look in the description of this video and you'll see several discount codes and affiliate links. You can save significant money on products that I use and recommend. This is just an opinion. Thanks for watching.